I realized the hoofbeats matched my pulse and there was no patrol scheduled. I stood up without thinking, and the wood duckboard creaked under me. Fog lay low over the wire, and the land looked like a drowned field. I nudged my brother with my boot. "Cut that out," I said, because I thought he was tapping the stock with his heel. He grinned and held his feet up. Not me. We had the watch, and nothing ever happened on our stretch. We joked about it. I told him this was the safest ditch in France, and he should thank me for picking it. He said the rats respected me and kept the shells off. I said the rats saluted when I passed. He laughed into his scarf. It was just us and the dark and the fog and the rim of sandbags with a wet shine. I kept listening to my own chest thump and that steady thud out there, 1, 2, 1, 2, like it knew me. There was a little metal sound that came and went. A small ring clicking against something, then quiet, then again, like someone rolling a coin on their teeth. I said it was wind on wire. He said wind didn't jingle. I told him old helmet straps made that sound when they rotted and hung loose. He said the belts didn't get up and walk, so we were fine. No patrol. No horses in our sector. Nothing that night but fog over no man's land in our rain-dark trench. I felt big and brave and stupid and young all at once. The mud sucked at my boots when I moved. I ran my hand along the parapet and pulled up a round button between two clods. It had 2 cross sabers stamped on it, and a number under them I almost knew. The metal was cold and slick. I rubbed it on my sleeve. "Souvenir?" I said, and I flipped it to my brother. He caught it and pinned it on his breast with a piece of wire he had stuck in his cap. "For luck," he said. He made a little face like a sergeant. "Looks smart. Trooper?" We both laughed. I told him the cavalry would come save us. He said they'd get lost in the wire and go home. His eyes looked bright in the dark. He was leaning back against a sandbag like it was a bar. The hoofbeats came again. Closer. They still matched my heart. It made me angry because it felt like a trick. I stamped once to throw them off. They matched anyway. "You hear that?" I asked. "Rats," he said. Then the jingle again. Metal on metal. A little bridle thing I remembered from fairs as a kid. The way the big horses walked with their bits clicking. I checked my watch. The glow under my hand said a little after 2. I said, "Who's out?" He shook his head. We had the board with patrol times cut into it, and there was nothing between 1 and 4. I stood on the step and peered over. The fog lay flat out there. The wire posts stuck up like black teeth and the strands disappeared into white. I didn't hear any men. I didn't hear talk. Just the breaths of the trench and those beats. I took the flare pistol out of the crate. I held it up. He said, "Save it." I pulled the trigger anyway. It sputtered. The little red gout dropped onto the sandbags and died in a spit of fire and stink. "Good show," my brother said. He made a slow clap with his mitts. I called him a useless mule, and he said at least he was steady. Behind us, down the line, someone coughed, and it sounded wrong and hollow and far. I tried the field phone. I cranked and pushed the bit down and yelled into it. "Stand to? Any orders?" Static answered, and then a dead quiet. I cranked harder. Nothing. He came over and put his ear to it. He shook his head. "They told us hold fire till sight," he said. "We did," I said. We sighted a sound. We both grinned at that because we were tired, and it was the kind of thing we said at that hour. The hoofbeats moved to our right, then back to our left. 1, 2, 1, 2, close, then far, like something was walking the line along the parapet deliberately. Sometimes I heard the soft drag of leather. The smell came with it, a barn wet and gone wrong, old straps and fungus and mouse nest. It got in my nose and then down my throat, and I wanted to spit. "You wash?" I said to him. He said, You're smelling your own socks." I cleared my rifle and worked the bolt. It stuck. I pulled and pushed, and the bolt came back mushy and then hung. I took a breath and tried not to look like I cared. "She's fine," I said. I smacked the side with my palm. The knob bit my hand and I swore. He leaned over and tapped it with his knuckles like he was fixing a clock. The hoofbeat stopped then, right above us. Silence fell so hard it pressed on my ears. Then a single ring clicked like a small bell. We both looked up together. The top sandbag grew a line in it. A thin, smooth cut like a wire saw went through it. The sound was blade on cloth and sand, a long scrape. Saber on sandbags. I swallowed and my mouth felt empty. I said, without meaning to say it, "That's stupid." He nodded, very fast. "Very," he said. We went down into the dugout and sat on the steps. He held his knees. I kept the rifle in my lap and the flare pistol in my belt. The candle on the crate burned a straight, mean flame. The roof timbers dripped without sound. I could still feel the hoofbeats through the wood. They matched me. My pulse went faster, and the beat sped up to follow. The jingle of harness rolled back and forth over our heads like a tangle of keys. "Tell me something dumb," he said. "I'll tell you something true," I said. "We go up, we put a light out. It's foxes." He smiled at that. "Foxes with swords," he said. We both laughed again because that was what we had. Then we both stopped at the same time because something heavy settled on the dugout door. It bent a little and a shower of dried mud sifted down and got in our hair and collars. I stood and he stood. "Ready?" I said. He said, "After you, because I was older by 7 minutes, and he made me pay for it every day." We went up together. He had his bayonet. I had the flare pistol in my right and the rifle wrong in my left, and it was stupid, but I didn't want to put either down. We rose into the cut air and I flicked the pistol toward the land and pulled. The flare went this time. It popped and screamed and went up and hung under the fog like a hot coin. Light fell on everything. It froze everything where it was. They were mid-charge and halted like someone had called out to them. 20? 30? More? It didn't matter because what I saw took the numbers out of me. The horses didn't look alive, but they stood, ribbed and torn, with the rot held together by tack and frost. The riders sat up straight on them, tall and wrong, their faces gone or thin or full of old leather, their eyes like wet coal under their brims. Not fire, not light, just black shine that saw. They were silent. Their sabers hung out and the points shivered in the light. The barbed wire under them didn't catch. They touched it and slid through. It snagged nothing. The fog hugged them and moved with them, more like water than air. I breathed like I had never done it before. My brother gripped my sleeve. The insignia on the saddlecloths looked familiar, and that made my heart beat faster, and that made the hoofbeats tap faster, and then they were moving again. "Back," I said. We dropped to knee. I tried to bring the rifle up, and the bolt still hung. I slammed it with my palm, and it bit me, and I tasted iron from my own tongue or the air. The hoofbeats went from the land to the rim of our trench. They ran along it. Sabers touched the top bags. Sand hissed down. You could hear bit rings kiss metal and then clink again. A strap creaked like a door hinge spread with mold. "Orders?" my brother said, and his voice sounded small. I grabbed the phone and cranked. No answer. I yelled into it anyway, the words tumbling. "Cavalry. At the line. Moving. What are our orders?" Dead quiet. I slammed it down and the crack was too loud. He flinched. I said, "Hold. Hide. That was the only order I had. We fell into the dugout again and kicked the door almost shut. The smell came in under it anyway. Old wet leather. Wet hair that had dried too many times and then never again. The ring clicked and clicked. Hooves thudded on the timbers and then moved away and then came back. My heart hurt with the beating and the matching. I could see his pulse in his neck under dirt. A thin line of light showed at the frame. It went out. The door lifted a fraction, as if something had picked it with 2 fingers. Sand dropped on my knuckles. A saber tip slid under, felt for us, scraped along the floorboards, lifted, then went away. We waited without moving. Even our breathing went quiet. The saber came back and traced a line up and down the door, and the sound ran through my teeth and made me want to throw up. When it went quiet again, we counted in our heads and didn't agree on a number. We always did that before getting out of the water as kids. When I got to 6, I couldn't stand it and I pushed. We burst out with the floor under us shaking. The night moved like it had bones. The horse was right there, its head down, its bit working, the ring clicking the metal of the cheek piece soft and steady. Its skin didn't have warmth. Where the skin was gone, the black showed. The bridle was rotted leather and it flaked when it moved. A hand from the rider dropped reins into the cut with no effort. They fell around us like thin lines. "Back," I said, too slow. One loop caught my wrist when I brought the rifle up. It tightened without a jerk. It just got smaller around my glove and then my skin. It was slick with whatever had been living in it. I tried to pull my hand out. The leather bit into the seam of the glove and into me. And then the horse stepped back 1 step, and I went forward like a dead thing. My shoulder crackled. I hit the step and saw white. I shouted for my brother in a voice that didn't sound like me. He grabbed the rein with both hands and pulled it the other way. The rider let it slide, and then flicked it and wrapped it around my forearm. The rot made it soft, and the fibers opened and pressed into my skin. I yanked and felt something tear in me, and then in it, and then the strap split, and I fell, and the world bent. The saber came down past my face and sliced a groove in the sandbag, and the sand hissed along my cheek. The blade touched me like cold wire. I pulled my head in like a turtle. Another rein came from the other side. It went around my brother's shoulder and chest, like it knew where to go, and then it hauled. He yelled and swore and braced his boots and didn't move, and then it pulled again and he slid on his heels, and I grabbed his waist and we made a stupid chain that had no strength. The old leather squealed and scratched. The sabers scraped above us like someone sharpening a shovel. We went over together, arms, legs, mud, the flare pistol lost with a soft thud. I hit the step again with the same side as before, and a hot pain went up my spine and burned the back of my eyes. I got one hand on my knife and it was stupid, dull and short. I saw it at the rein on him. The fibers popped. The smell came up strong. The leather stretched. The horse moved just enough to keep it taut. The blade stuck. My hand slipped and the knife went up into my own palm and I hissed and let go. He looked at me and his mouth was saying my name and not making a sound. The rider above him leaned down. The eyes were like wet coal, not light, just black that reflected our stupid little world. I looked for anything. I saw the saddlecloth right above me, inches from my face when the horse stepped over the lip. The cloth had the crossed sabers on it and the number I knew for sure then. It was our number. It was our own old badge in the mud earlier and now here, worn into the stuff. Through the fog of the flare I had not seen it good. Now I did. Our insignia in black thread on rotten red. Mud had filled the edges and made it look like a scab. "Jesus," I said. My brother didn't look. He was going up the side, pulled by the arm and chest like he weighed air. I got his boot. He kicked me by accident with the heel and I lost him. He went up into the white. He went over the bag and into no man's land like he had been born to it. His hand flung out, and the little button he had pinned on caught the dim and marked him, and then it was gone. I got up stupid as a puppet and staggered to the step. The horse that had my rein pulled me forward. My legs slid. Mud filled my socks. I felt rope burn where there was no rope. Sabers scraped the top again, sparking little sandfalls. I saw their faces in flash, all the same black wet in the eyes, all the same silence. They didn't breathe. The fog hugged them. The wire outside didn't bite them. They went through like it wasn't there. I climbed and fell and climbed and fell, and the rain pulled and then let me and then pulled, like it was letting me think I could win. I got my head over the parapet and saw him. He sat a horse that didn't want him, and he didn't care. He sat like we had after riding on our uncle's farm. Too high stirrups, knees wrong, helmet strap hanging with the buckle turned around because he never wore it right. The button shone on his chest for 1 second, the crossed sabers I had thrown to him, and his eyes were wet coal like theirs. He looked down at me and didn't blink. His hand held a rein that came down to my arm. He didn't move his mouth even once. I made an animal noise. I don't know what. I pulled back and the rein went slack, and then it tightened again quick and cut into the place it had already cut, and I fell forward onto the step, and my shoulder did something bad and loud inside. I heard the bit ring click, 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 like someone was tapping gently on my ear with a coin to get my attention. They moved. The whole lot moved, and the fog went with them, and they went along the line and down into the next traverse without touching the wire or the posts or the world. 1, 2. 1, 2. My heart leaped to follow and couldn't. The dugout door hung open. The candle had gone out. The phone sat with the mouthpiece cracked on the floor. I got to the crate and sat and shook and tried to pull the leather out of my skin, and pieces came and stayed and came and stayed. Blood ran into my sleeve and made a slow warm. I pushed mud into the cut to numb it. The saber had shaved the skin on my cheek, and it burned when I breathed. Everything smelled like rot and damp. I tore a page from my book and a pencil stub from the nail. The hoofbeats were still there, farther down, then back again, like a tide. The ring clicked every now and then as if to say I was late. I wrote what I remembered, step by step, so the words would hold me steady. My hand shook and the paper went dark where it shouldn't. I heard the sabers scrape the bags outside once more. A rein slapped the door and slid off. Someone else cried 2 trenches down, short and cut off. The fog shifted. I didn't go up. I couldn't. I thought about the button. I had thrown it to him. I had made the joke. I had said the cavalry would save us. I had not known they would be ours. I was too tired to get clever. The candle guttered, and I couldn't find the box to light it again. I put the pencil down and picked it up and put it down. The ring clicked. The hoofbeats matched the little jump under my ribs, slow and steady, like the night was a drum for them and me both. I wrote that the pain was unbearable. The last words descended into illegible scratches. Every story has a price. For this one, it's simple. A like and a subscribe. That's how we keep the ritual going. Miss a step, and the next upload might not find you. See you in the next one.